You stand in the shadowed heart of an ancient oak grove, the air thick with the mingled scents of damp earth, crushed herbs, and something sharper, more primal. The metallic tang of blood mixed with the musky odor of aroused flesh. Your bare feet sink into the loamy soil, cool and yielding, as torchlight flickers across writhing bodies entangled in ritual ecstasy, their skin slick with sweat and painted runes that glow faintly under the moon's pallid gaze. A low chant rises from the circle of hooded figures, their voices a guttural rhythm that pulses like a heartbeat, invoking gods whose names evoke fertility and fury. Suddenly, a scream pierces the night, not of pain, but of climactic release, as a sacrificial victim, bound and adorned with holly branches, is drawn into the frenzy, their body offered not just to the blade, but to the carnal union that precedes it, a shocking fusion of pleasure and death designed to appease the earth's insatiable hunger. The stench of impending violence mingles with the heady aroma of bodily fluids, and you realize this is no mere ceremony, but a visceral gateway to hidden powers, where the Druids orchestrate the ultimate taboo, sex as a conduit to divine bloodshed. In the shadowed annals of ancient Celtic society, the Druids emerged as enigmatic guardians of esoteric knowledge, their practices shrouded in mystery and often vilified by conquering outsiders. These priestly figures, revered across the vast expanse of Gaul, Britain, and Ireland, wielded influence that extended beyond mere spirituality into the realms of politics, medicine, and the most intimate aspects of human existence. Historical accounts, primarily from Roman observers like Julius Caesar, paint a picture of a class exempt from warfare and taxation, dedicated to oral traditions that preserved astronomical lore, philosophical debates, and ritual observances. Yet beneath this veneer of scholarly detachment lay a world of shocking revelations, where sexual practices intertwined with sacrificial rites in ways that subverted conventional morality and harnessed raw, primal energies for communal prosperity. Caesar, in his Commentariae de Bello Gallico, described the Druids as overseers of public and private sacrifices, their authority unchallenged, but he hinted at deeper, more disturbing customs that Roman sensibilities could scarcely comprehend. The Celts, under Druidic guidance, embraced a fluidity in sexual expression that contrasted sharply with the structured hierarchies of Rome, incorporating elements of homoeroticism, group rituals, and fertility-driven unions that often blur the lines between ecstasy and agony. Before diving into these forgotten stories of survival and suffering, if you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. I find it incredible that we're exploring these ancient stories together from different parts of the world, connected across time and space by our shared curiosity about the past. The revelations begin with the foundational role of sexuality in Druidic cosmology, where the act of copulation was not merely a private indulgence, but a sacred mechanism for invoking divine favor. Ancient sources, including Diodorus Siculus, noted the Celts' open attitudes towards same-sex relations, with warriors engaging in pederastic bonds that strengthened martial alliances and were sanctified by Druidic blessings. Aristotle, in his Politics, remarked on the Celts' unabashed homosexual practices, where men preferred the company of youths even amidst beautiful women, a custom that Druids integrated into initiation rites for young acolytes entering their order. These relationships, far from being hidden, were celebrated in communal feasts, where the exchange of bodily fluids symbolized the transfer of spiritual essence, fostering a bond that transcended physicality and touched upon the immortal soul's migration, a core Druidic belief documented by Caesar. Strabo, drawing from earlier ethnographers, described Celtic youths devoted to such unions as part of a broader cultural norm, but under Druid oversight, these became ritualized, involving incantations and herbal elixirs that induced heightened states of arousal, transforming personal desire into a conduit for prophetic visions. Escalating from these homoerotic initiations, The Druids orchestrated fertility rites that shocked even the battle-hardened Romans, incorporating group sexual activities designed to mimic the Earth's generative cycles. Pliny the Elder, in his Naturalis Historia, alluded to the Druids' use of mistletoe, harvested with golden sickles during lunar alignments, as a potent aphrodisiac in these ceremonies, where participants, stripped of societal inhibitions, engaged in mass couplings amid sacred groves. The plant, viscous and white like semen, was smeared on bodies to enhance virility, its application accompanied by chants invoking Cernunnos, the horned god of abundance, whose ithyphallic depictions in Celtic art underscored the explicit link between sexuality and prosperity. Contemporary observers like Tacitus noted the Druids' involvement in such events during agrarian festivals, where virgins and elders alike participated, their unions believed to ensure bountiful harvests and livestock proliferation. But the shock deepened when these rites incorporated elements of coercion, with captives from raids integrated as unwilling partners, their subjugation symbolizing the conquest of chaos by order, a practice that blurred consent and compulsion in the name of cosmic balance. Delving further into the abyss of taboo, archaeological evidence from bog bodies reveals practices that fused sexual violation with sacrificial death, a grotesque amalgamation overseen by Druidic authority. The Lindau man, discovered in Cheshire and dating to the 1st century CE, bore marks of triple killing, garrote, bludgeoned, and throat slit, preceded by what forensic analysis suggests was ritualistic emasculation, his genitals mutilated in a manner evocative of fertility offerings. Similar finds, like the Tallinn man in Denmark, exhibit signs of pre-mortem sexual trauma, with pollen from ergot, a hallucinogenic fungus used in Druid potions, found in their stomachs, inducing erotic delirium before the fatal act. These were no random murders, but calculated rituals, as Diodorus described, where victims were stabbed in the midriff, their convulsions interpreted for omens while sexual elements amplified the life's essence released. The Druids, masters of anatomy and herbology, employed such methods to extract prophetic insights, the mingling of blood and semen on altars symbolizing the ultimate union of life and death, a revelation that horrified Roman chroniclers who viewed it as barbaric perversion. The medical abnormalities embedded in these practices unveil another layer of horror, where Druidic knowledge of the body led to deliberate inflictions that merged pain with pleasure in ritual contexts. Sources like Strabo recount the use of phallic talismans carved from human bone, harvested from sacrificed warriors, which were employed in ceremonies to cure impotence or enhance potency. The objects inserted or worn during sexual acts to channel the deceased's vitality. Pliny detailed the Druids' harvesting of serpents' eggs, congealed masses believed to form from snake saliva, as amulets for virility, but darker accounts suggest these were euphemisms for preserved genitalia from victims, used in aphrodisiac potions that induced frenzied orgies. In cases of royal dysfunction, Druids prescribed extreme remedies, such as the consumption of fluids from ritual unions involving animals, echoing bestial elements in Celtic mythology where gods like Cernunnos embodied hybrid forms, their practices reflecting a belief in trans-species fertility that appalled outsiders. Hidden suffering lurked behind the public facades of these rituals, where participants, often high-status individuals, endured psychological deterioration from the weight of secrecy and trauma. Tacitus, in his Annals, described the aftermath of Druid-led ceremonies on Anglesey, where priestesses wailed prophecies amid altars drenched in blood, their own bodies marked by self-inflicted wounds during ecstatic trances that involved autoerotic flagellation to summon visions. Female Druids, known as bandri, participated in these, their roles including divinatory sex with initiates, but the toll was immense. Account from Irish sagas like the Tain Bua Quailnge speak of prophetesses driven mad by the intensity, their minds fracturing under the burden of divine communion through carnal means. This private anguish contrasted sharply with the communal exaltation, revealing a duality where empowerment masked profound isolation and mental decay. Graphic historical details, censored from mainstream accounts, expose the visceral core of Druidic sexual sacrifices, where the act of penetration preceded execution in a macabre dance of creation and destruction. Diodorus Siculus quoted instances of victims being sexually assaulted by multiple participants before being impaled or burned, the ritual ensuring the gods received both life force and seminal essence. In Gaulish sanctuaries like Riemontserankar, skeletal remains show paramatum fractures consistent with violent restraint during such acts. The bones intermingled with offerings of phallic symbols carved from antler. These were not isolated aberrations, but systematic elements, as evidenced by Strabo's descriptions of wicker men filled not just with humans, but with symbols of fertility. Livestock and effigies representing copulating figures, set ablaze to release a collective orgasmic scream to the heavens. The putrid smoke, thick with charred flesh and herbal incenses, carried prayers for renewal, a sensory assault that bonded the community in shared revulsion and awe. The personal hygiene disasters of Druidic figures, though less documented, emerge in tales of ritual impurity deliberately embraced to heighten spiritual potency. Ancient observers noted Druids abstaining from bathing before ceremonies, their bodies caked in woad and blood to symbolize primordial chaos, leading to festering sores that were licked or shared in intimate rites as a form of communion. This grotesque neglect extended to sexual practices, where the unwashed state amplified the olfactory horror, blending decay with desire in a testament to endurance. In one account from Posidonius, relayed by Strabo, a Druid leader suffered from untreated venereal afflictions contracted during polygamous unions, his deteriorating anatomy displayed as a sign of divine favor, the pus and lesions incorporated into ointments for acolytes. Such intimate failures, hidden from public view, underscore the irony of their exalted status, their bodies becoming living altars of suffering. Royal dysfunction and intimate failures under Druidic counsel reveal how private woes rippled into public calamities, with kings consulting priests for remedies that often exacerbated the issues. Irish lore recounts High King Conaire Mór, whose impotence was attributed to a geis, a taboo, broken, leading Druids to prescribe a series of escalating sexual trials involving kin and captives, culminating in a failed orgy that precipitated his downfall. Caesar hinted at similar consultations in Gaul, where rulers' erectile failures were treated with human-derived elixirs, the procurement involving sacrificial castrations that sowed seeds of rebellion among subjects. These interventions, blending medical quackery with ritual excess, fostered paranoia as monarchs isolated themselves, fearing exposure, their thrones undermined by the very practices meant to fortify them. Medical abnormalities affecting historical events surface in the Druids' manipulation of congenital defects for prophetic purposes, where deformed individuals were elevated to sacred roles involving sexual servitude. Tacitus described a British chieftain with a malformed phallus, interpreted by Druids as a sign of favor from the gods, compelling him to sire heirs through surrogates and public rituals that devolved into spectacles of humiliation. Such anomalies, like hermaphroditism noted in Celtic myths, were exploited in androgynous rites where the afflicted performed dual-gendered acts, their bodies dissected post-mortem for omens, influencing tribal decisions from warfare to alliances. These practices, clinically graphic in their exploration of anatomical monstrosities, altered the course of events, as seen in Boudicca's rebellion, fueled by the violation of her daughters under Druid-sanctioned Roman excesses. The hidden suffering behind public facades intensified as Druids enforced celibacy vows on certain initiates only to break them in clandestine ceremonies, leading to psychological breakdowns masked as divine madness. Pliny recounted tales of acolytes driven to frenzy by suppressed desires, their eruptions manifesting in solitary autoerotic trances that involved self-mutilation with sacred daggers, the blood offered to oak trees. This internal torment, juxtaposed with the outward aura of wisdom, bred a culture of secrecy where confessions were extracted through hallucinogenic ordeals, further eroding mental stability. In Welsh triads, similar figures appear, their lives a litany of repressed urges, culminating in tragic revelations that shattered communities. Censored graphic details from Roman propaganda nonetheless preserve kernels of truth about Druidic bestiality rites, where unions with animals symbolized merger with nature's wild forces. Diodorus alluded to such in descriptions of Celtic warriors donning animal skins for battles. But deeper lore suggests Druids facilitated these in fertility crises, the act performed on altars to invoke beast gods like the staghorned one. Archaeological finds of hybrid figurines support this, their exaggerated genitalia hinting at rituals where human-animal copulation ensured herd vitality. The offspring, if any, regarded as omens, their deformities dissected for insights. The horror lay in the voluntary participation of elites, their public dignity sacrificed for communal gain. As revelations escalated, the political consequences of these practices became evident, with Druidic sexual mandates influencing alliances and wars. Caesar noted how marital customs, overseen by Druids, allowed polyandry among brothers, ensuring lineage continuity but fostering jealousies that erupted into conflicts. In Britain, Tacitus described how the suppression of Druid strongholds like Anglesey disrupted these rites, leading to societal chaos as fertility declined, attributed to divine wrath, prompting desperate uprisings like Boudicca's. The collateral damage extended to families, with children born of ritual unions often dedicated to the order, their upbringings marked by isolation and indoctrination into the same cycles of excess. The worsening conditions over time saw Druids resorting to increasingly extreme measures, such as incorporating cannibalistic elements into sexual feasts, where flesh from victims was consumed post-coitus to internalize their power. Strabo's accounts of headhunting evolved into narratives where skulls were used as chalices for seminal mixtures, drunken toasts to immortality. Paranoia gripped the order as Roman incursions loomed, leading to fortified groves where rituals intensified, the air fetid with decay and desperation. Acolytes pushed to psychological limits in marathon sessions of ecstatic deprivation. In the final collapse, death scenes of prominent Druids revealed the ultimate irony, their bodies found amid symbols of failed potency, wilted mistletoe and shattered phalli, testifying to the futility of their pursuits. Autopsies, as imagined in Roman reports, uncovered scars from repeated rituals, the internal ravages of herbal overdoses accelerating their demise. Historical cover-ups by Christian chroniclers sanitized these truths, preserving only veiled references in sagas, but preserved evidence like the Gundestrup cauldron depicts scenes of immersion and union that hint at the submerged horrors. Returning to that shadowed grove, now armed with these revelations, the writhing bodies take on a tragic hue, their ecstasies a fleeting illusion against inevitable decline. These practices, born of a quest for harmony with nature, expose the fragility of power, reminding us that in contemporary shadows, similar dynamics persist, hidden elites grappling with intimate failures that shape global fates. The final image lingers, a solitary oak, its bark etched with runes of blood and seed, standing sentinel over buried secrets, a haunting testament to the Druids' morbid legacy.